Hello and a very warm welcome to Money Control. In continuation of our budget coverage, today we are in conversation with one of the key architects of Budget 25-26, Mr. Tuhin Kanta Pandey, the Finance Secretary of India. Also joining me in this conversation is Mr. Bodhisattva Ganguly, Group Consulting Editor, Network 18. Mr. Pandey, thank you very much for taking up the time. We know it's been a busy last few days, in fact, for you, even maybe months. Congratulations on putting out what has turned out to be a blockbuster budget. You know, it's dominated headlines in a good way. So I want to begin by asking you that the key headline from this budget is the tax rate cut, which is being perceived as something that will really boost consumption and so on. We wanted to get in your thoughts on what was the idea behind this. Why did you feel the need to do this in this budget?
I think the Honorable Prime Minister gave the overall guidance. Make pro-growth, pro-people, pro-taxpayer budget.
Okay. These were his words.
These were the overall guidance. And Finance Minister took series of meetings and spent hours and hours with her team, getting into different options, looking at different imperatives. We have a certain geopolitical situation. We have an environment, global environment, which is not so favorable for anyone, you know.
Right.
Because there's unpredictable, there are headwinds, there's a geo-economic fragmentation. And we have our own internal aspirations, and we have also aspirations to grow faster towards Viksit Bharat.
Absolutely.
So we have to really balance various imperatives. But within the overall, the guidance set by the Prime Minister. So that is how, you know, our team went about, you know, searching options, working options, and do that. And I think Prime Minister was very clear that it has to be a taxpayer-friendly budget.
But the counter argument to that would be that the taxpayers still constitute a very small percentage, right? And the whole idea is also to boost consumption and to bring back demand in the economy. So has there been an assessment that you've carried out to understand the kind of consumption boost that this budget could bring? And, you know, vis-a-vis, is there an assessment that's been done to understand, say, the spillover effect on consumption via Capex expenditure as compared to, say, tax cuts?
First of all, actually, this is a very balanced budget because it doesn't really say that this is, you know, rather than putting it into the binary, this is a consumption budget or this is a capital-led budget. I think it takes care of everything. Now, you know, in a way, you know, consumption, investment, savings are very interlinked. You can't really in a purely segmented way.
Right.
A lot of consumption leads to investment. A lot of investment creates jobs and also promotes consumption. It's a cyclical. So we have to really see how the cycle is actually favorably pushed up. Now, you know, so far as the Capex is concerned, we have, if you really look at it, from the government resources, we are spending close to 15.48 lakh crore in the capital. 11.29 lakh crore in the direct Capex being proposed, and then more than 4 lakh crore, the money which we give as grant to the states in order to do the Capex. This is necessary.
Right.
This is necessary because we can't do that. The assets belong to them, like rural drinking water schemes. And we have a very big Jal Jeevan mission there.
Right.
So all of the pipeline supplies, the pumps and other projects which are done necessarily has to be in the books of the states, not in our books. Accounting terms, it will be a grant from us and Capex on them. And these are very transparently available in the very statement, the very first statement that you can refer to in budget document.
Right.
What is called capital, grant for creation of capital assets. So this is that 15.68 lakh crore. If you really look at our borrowings, it's almost like 15.68. So you would this almost all the borrowings is actually being spent on Capex And this is actually a most salutary situation. That means you are not borrowing to finance any of your revenue expenditure.
You're doing it.
Technically, it's a Capex, no? The grant in
Sure.
creation of capital assets.
Yeah.
So therefore, this is something which is non-inflationary. And that is a second imperative. First, I said about Capex,
Right.
15.48 lakh crore. I am not counting another 4.5 lakh crore which comes from the public sector, enterprises from their own resources. If you put it together, it becomes 19 lakh crores, 19.8 lakh crores.
Okay.
So that is, so in no terms we will say that the Capex is ignored or Capex is this there. Merely if you are saying direct Capex, what is an incremental on the BE, that's not the way to look at it. You have to look at the overall picture.
Okay.
The second point is on macros, fiscal consolidation. We have retained our fiscal consolidation as a goal. Whatever finance minister had announced as a path, we have stuck to it. We had announced that we will be 4.9% of GDP. We were there in 4.8. Next year, we said that we will reach 4.5. We are proposing to go at 4.4. Thereafter, we said we will announce a path in terms of debt to GDP ratio. We have given that in the FRBM statement that we will be by 2031. It will be 50 plus minus 1%, and we have given different scenarios how that will be achieved. So on fiscal consolidation path, we have stuck to what we said. So I would say it is a non-inflationary, because if we were to just stimulate through increasing fiscal deficit, it will have implications for inflation control, which we think that we must, RBI and the government, our fiscal and monetary must act in tandem in order to see that the inflation remains under control. Inflation is coming down. We want it to go down further. Because that will also trigger another kind of a cycle for boost, which means bringing down the rate. As and when the interest rates, they come down,
Right.
that will give another boost to investments and as well as consumption.
Right.
So the third, we said that, okay, look at the taxpayer. Are we really, trying to put it in the name of this base? Will it be just keep on thing? Do we not take care of some of the inflation that has set in?
Right.
In terms of this? So I think, as I said, the overall guidance of the Prime Minister was that, Prime Minister understand the angst which was there, particularly on middle class, and said, we have to relieve their burden too. So therefore, we looked at that. And then we said that the context is more medium term, long term as well. And we are on the verge of bringing out a new bill, income tax bill.
Right.
So how does our structure look like? Is it our present structure of tax rate is good enough? We thought it was not so.
Okay.
So we should look at a more forward-looking structure, which means that we may have to give away certain thing. But yes, we change the structure. It's very neat now. 0 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to this. It's not really, somewhere it is 3, difference of 2, somewhere it is. And then gradualism, 5, 10, 15, 20. It was jumping to 30. They said we bring another 25.
Yeah.
A gradualism, relates to as the people grow up in income ladder, there is a gradual increase in rates.
Right.
There is no jerks.
Right.
So a difference of 4 here in the rates and a difference of 5 here in the rates here and 4 in the slab.
Why wasn't it included in the budget? The new tax code?
It has been included. No,
The details of it.
no, that is an entirely new bill. That is entirely a new bill. And the new bill has to be passed. So you cannot bring, it's an entirely new bill. It is rewritten.
But will the bill bring changes in the tax slabs in a significant
It will not change in that because that will be the prerogative of the tax policy.
That's right,
But structurally, it undergoes a massive change, the way it reads, the way it connects, the way it is understood. So, and the way the redundancy is removed.
Okay.
So, rationalization and simplification exercise will follow in that, further follow. But some of the key things, reforms have also been brought in here. right in this bill because they will be applicable from 1st of April. They don't have to wait till the next year after the
fiscal, okay.
passing of the budget. So then the taxpayer thing is that, we had this, relief. And with the belief, that this money which the government is basically transferring the decision making from the government to the people. And there's absolutely no problem with that. As people, as taxpayers, they will do either of the three things. They will either consume, or they will save, or they will directly invest.
Right.
In either of the three situations, given our current state of the economy, it suits us.
The FM
So therefore,
also,
if they invest, instead of we investing, they invest.
So the finance minister spoke very emphatically while presenting the budget about trusting the taxpayer, about the fact that, to work with the principle of innocent until proven guilty. I want to get your thoughts in on that, because in the last few months, in fact, all of last year, there was a lot of anxiety and angst against a slew of tax notices. There was a lot of criticism around, rise of tax terrorism and so on. So, and in this budget, you've tried to dispel some of that. But how easy will it be to really implement that spirit, that was articulated in the budget practically on ground?
Well, I think to some extent this, this issue has been hyperventilated. Because if you would say that out of so many taxpayers, well, 99.7% the returns are self-assessed. You and me have been filing returns. We don't get notices. So 99.7% is only 0.3%. Less than 0.3% are actually scrutinized.
Okay.
So it is.
I'm also talking about companies here.
No, I'm talking of individuals. Also.
Okay.
And put together. So therefore, in any case, it is a trust first approach which FM announced, and that trust first approach will continue. It was important to reaffirm it because it is time to time you have to reaffirm that this is a trust first principle that will follow. And with that approach also, we did several of the rationalization.
Okay.
We didn't wait for those rationalization for the next new bill.
Right.
Because we could have said that, okay, let us try and bring it there. Because something which we see is already very urgent. Why wait till another year to make it happen? Why not make it happen straight away? Now in TTS and TCS that has been approached, our rationalization, for example. A lot of people are impacted by it. You and me are also impacted. It's not really the institutions and big companies that are really looking at TDS, TCS. This, in many cases, TDS, TCS is required for tracking. And that is a very important part of our tax administration. When you do the tracking, that enables a lot of information. That information, in fact, comes handy even to the taxpayer. See, it is very difficult for you to keep your hisab. Of what you are doing, how much is doing, then you have to collect it from different banks, how much of interest I have, collected. So all that is now pretty thing of the past.
Right.
Because when you open an AIS, your statement, annual income statement from and if you look at 26 AS statement from the your own traces, that tax site, you are able to see who is deducting how much, who is there, who is depositing, not depositing. Suppose your employer has deducted. Whether or not he has deposited, you are able to see it there.
Right.
So you don't have to really phone up and ask those people, have you deposited my tax which you collected?
Right.
So there is an automated processes which have been put into place, and TDS, TCS processes are also that.
Okay.
Most of the time, TDS, TCS is very small, 0.1%, 1% and all that. But sometimes they are larger because when the tax is in any case going to be collected, it has to be collected as pay as you go.
Okay.
Like when you are earning income, you must also pay income tax if it's fairly certain this is amount you got to be paying. Then the TDS will be higher amount, from your salary.
Right.
When it comes to some transaction, it may be 1% or 0.1% or 2%. So we have rationalized it. We have said, okay, let's not have too many thresholds, too many rates. You should understand what is this today, 5,000, should I pay, should I deduct 15,000 and another limit. So we have said, okay, broadly 4.
Got it.
10, 20, 50, like this.
Right.
So, and then we said rates also, threshold and rate, standardization.
So are you doing...
So that we did in this.
Okay.
Then we had several of things for ease of doing business, compliance burden on business, on individuals. For example, small things like, self-occupied property.
But it's also sensitization of the officers, Mr. Pandey. People who are dealing with those officers on ground.
Well, I think the law itself has to change. Now, one of the points we must say that officers will actually be, ordained by law to do a certain thing.
Right.
Like, even if, suppose now today we have a faceless regime. We have a self-assessment regime. So practically the tax administration is done by the taxpayer himself or herself. When you file your taxes, who is doing the thing? You yourself calculate your taxes.
Yeah.
And there are certain calculation sheets are also available, or you can take the help of any tax advisors and do that. And then you deposit. And that is accepted by the machines,
So,
and then when even in assessment, a very small 0.3% of whatever is come as a scrutiny, which will again be scrutinized not based on whims and fancies of anybody.
Okay.
It is a system-based picking based on risk-weighted system. Suppose you have lots of mismatches between what is being intended in your AIS and the one you are filing. In that case, the system might discover a mismatch and then put it as a things to be scrutinized. Or it could be a random. You will pick up 0.1% of this category as a thing, and random selections are made. Again, there is no selection by anybody. It's a system-based selection.
Sure.
Then assessment. Assessment goes on faceless. Nobody knows where it is going, who is assessing. Officers do not know as well.
Right. So the new tax bill, what can we expect in that? If you could share some specifics
in
with
the
us.
new tax bill also, these kind of reforms which we have brought in will obviously continue. Will obviously continue. Wherever we have reformed will continue. But the new tax bill, I think the purpose is to rewrite something which has been, amended n number of times. That Act of 61 has been amended so many times. Now things have changed, contexts have changed, some provisions are redundant, something is repealed, something has been brought in, connections are there across chapters.
Okay.
So you have a reading of a bill, it's also drafted in a different era.
Right.
Even now, the way we write laws also have substantially undergone a change.
Right.
The newer things are more direct.
So are we looking at doing away with some punitive clauses, doing away with imprisonment for certain?
Some of those decriminalization we have already done.
Okay, so nothing
So
new
the point
about.
is the reforms will be carried, whatever reforms have been done, it will be seamlessly carried forward.
But no new taxes in the new direct tax code bill?
Nothing of that sort.
No STT, no increase in capital gains?
No, nothing. Tax rates, etc. is an annual exercise.
Okay.
Which is undertaken by finance minister, and it is not there. We are talking of a tax law which enables the structure.
Okay. Sure.
Which says that what is to be done what. And it has, this one, as FM also said in her speech, that will be close to half of the pages.
Yeah.
The chapters will be close to half. There will be a lot of consolidation. When you are reading, if you have a cross-referencing all the time to different, you would have a problem.
Right.
So if it is in one place, the flow comes in. Imagine reading a book.
Got it. So easier to understand, simpler, but no new taxes, no additions, no. Okay. All right.
Nothing that the taxpayer should be worried about.
Okay. That's heartening to hear.
No, thank you, Shweta. In fact, I hope the new tax bill will remove the apprehension that there is a deep state, the existence of a deep state which is coming to the public today?
I think there are many deeps going on this time. Last week we had DeepSeek.
Right, right.
It was like something which, AI thing which was app. There is nothing called deep state. I think the point is everything that we are doing is becoming a collaborative exercise.
Right.
The earlier era of lawmaking is not there. Where is that era now? For this particular piece that we are writing, we have received 20,000 suggestions.
The
Right,
new
from
direct
members
tax.
of the public, India.
It was put it out, suggestions
yeah.
were invited, so many committees have gone into it. In my opinion, in today's complex world,
Yeah.
it is not possible for just a few of us to just write it down and do something significant.
Absolutely.
Each element of today's policy is a draft policy, shared, exchanged, comments given upon, deliberated, rationale given. It is always now, the present era is the drafting, etc., everything. And this has happened in earlier cases also. In case of BNS,
Yes,
it
absolutely.
was done. There's
More
so much of
participation.
consultations were also done.
More
So
participation.
therefore, to say that, there is something deep state which is there, this is also, like we are saying Cold War.
Yes.
I mean, you can, by deep state, you can also enact a Cold War ka ghost. There is something Cold War and,
Right.
we can, invite all those things. But the fact is that the bureaucracy or administration implements the policy of the government, and those laws are passed by the parliament, and those laws, such laws like this, are scrutinized by the parliament standing committees, and those parliament standing committees invite the suggestions of the people, and the standing committee invites the experts to look at it. So all your tax advisors, all your others, all your people will be again, after this, will get an opportunity to really go and to do that. And today also in one of those interaction with the industry, I said, you will get one more time. Whatever suggestions we received and all that, but whether or not we incorporated them well, whether we drafted it well, whether something is still amiss, you will still have an opportunity to do that. This collaborative lawmaking is what will propel India forward.
Right.
Sure.
If we want to be a Viksit Bharat, we can't really be talking in terms of isolation.
Absolutely.
And talking of we and they, it is we and we. And mind you, tax is one which impacts everyone, including us. If I write a bad law, I will also be suffering because of that.
Yeah, fair enough. Yes.
So I just wanted to, we may not be in a Cold War, but we certainly have a tariff war, which seems to have started. So two questions. One is that it's very clear that Indian markets fell today, so did Asian markets. The US markets are likely to fall today, and they will be turbulent. And is there any analysis, a preliminary analysis, which the Indian government has carried out of the second order impacts? In fact, they're not so second order, they're very much first order impact of these tariffs in terms of markets, because if markets fall, there will be a wealth effect that can also hit consumption. So is there some kind of analysis which the government has carried out on the likely impact of these Trump tariffs?
See, one point which we have to keep in mind, and always, we remember 1929, the Great Depression.
Yes.
History tells us that protectionism doesn't help at worldwide level. It will lower trade, global trade, it will lower the trade growth, it will lower the overall growth. So, I mean, that's what economic theory tells us. That is also what has been there, because an opportunistic behavior by one will invite another opportunistic behavior.
Sure.
It is then, it's in game theory, it is like we pauperize ourselves together. Rather than we together we prosper, because together we pauperize ourselves. So that's the general thing. Now, geopolitical context being what it is, and geoeconomic fragmentation is a thing which is happening for a lot of time. And I'm not commenting on what are the rationale for this, because there are processes, social processes, which are beyond us to fathom.
Sure.
Sometimes they are as a result of a long time angst which has been brewing, and because something has not been fair to a large section of the people, and that brewing has led to a situation where the people said, okay, let us get apart. Let's not integrate. So we have, this deglobalization from a person when, you remember Thomas Friedman wrote,
Yes,
the
yes,
world is
absolutely, yeah.
flat.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
Exactly about 20
It's
years
now
ago.
going in the opposite direction.
And then,
Yeah.
and the world is, different now. So I think these are the processes which unravel over a period of time. These are societal processes. Now, given that as what we are, where we are, we have to make the best of our situation. We have to
Right.
look at our own national interest, with public interest. We are a large economy. Today, it is recognized as the fastest growing large economy. But given our own per capita income and our own aspirations, we want to climb higher. We have a vision of Viksit Bharat. And we have to, and the path to Viksit Bharat has to be paved with a lot of hard work, a lot of concrete action, a lot of policies, a lot of things that we have to do it autonomously. Not that because others tell us, because we tell ourselves. When we do rationalization,
Yeah.
we don't need any World Bank or IMF to tell us how deregulation will help. We know that it will help.
It'll help.
Because if we have to increase productivity, we have to make the total factor productivity more. We have to remove friction. We have to reduce transaction cost.
Right.
And wherever the transaction cost is high, it will have an impact on growth. Whatever little delta,
Yes.
it will have a negative impact on growth. Can we remove that delta? If everyone tries to remove the delta in its own sphere, put together, it will become a big sum. So that is where the vision of deregulation also is there. There has to be an appropriate regulation. Regulation is needed because without a red light, nothing can work.
Yeah.
It will be chaos.
Absolutely.
But you need appropriate regulation. Right? If you have a red light, which where the timing is set in a manner,
Right.
where you make 2 minutes or 5 minutes for a particular site to wait, and other side is also waiting 5 minutes, it's a very suboptimal way of managing a red light change.
Fair enough.
Red light has to be set in a manner where it is more efficient.
Fair enough. So we've
So
spoken
this
about
example will tell you how we can actually try and achieve appropriate regulation.
So we've spoken about deregulation. It was flagged in the eco survey as well. We wanted to get your thoughts in on interest rates, considering we have the RBI policy also coming up. Now that monetary policy fiscal policy has done its job, are you hoping that we could see something happening on the monetary policy front as well?
Well, we hope so, because the reason is that we feel that the monetary policy and fiscal policy should move in tandem and not at cross purposes. Like if we were to really try and stimulate beyond a level, not caring about our fiscal deficit,
Yeah.
it will add another inflation spiral, which then will get a reaction from the regulator in a different way.
Absolutely.
And then we will not get the outcome that we are wanting. In order for we need non-inflationary growth.
Right.
Inflation doesn't help in making a sustained growth.
Right.
You may try and do it for a while, but then it claws back your growth very quickly. So our fiscal deficit, fiscal consolidation is in place. That's one imperative that I told you right in the beginning that we have kept in mind. We are on a gliding path of control of our fiscal deficit, which gives, if inflation is waning, if the regulator feels there is the right time to do it, but there are always risks. There will always be risk. So one has to weigh what is the risk of inflation coming back. Because to some extent, there could be an imported inflation. So what is going to be happening on the exchange rate? What's going to be happening on, on oil? So we know that, generally we don't anticipate an oil spike
Sure.
because, more energy will be pumped in on petroleum side. We know that. So therefore, I think supplies will be good. But we also have this risks of, exchange rate. Because, if there is so much of uncertainty, then some of the capital flows get reversed from the emerging markets, and which is an impact on exchange rates. So therefore, we do have these conflicting things. As I said, balancing of competing paradigms, balancing of competing thing is the one which is an exercise which we have to do in the budget, and so is in every economic decision making. There will be this counter thing. If we do, so it's a balancing act.
So, Finance Secretary, but to sum up but on balance, you think that RBI should start a interest rate cutting cycle as soon as possible?
Well, it is for the RBI to see. I think they are competent. They have a monetary policy committee, and they have a certain mandate to do so. Within that, I think they will do the best what they can. It's not for us to, suggest. An independent regulator looks at it. But the conditions have to be created. So on the budget side, what we have done, we have looked at demand side, we have looked at supply side. In supply side, we have taken several measures which in the short, medium and long term would actually help us have some handle on our core worry.
Right.
And our core worry, more than core inflation, is the food inflation. So food inflation always keeps us back in some respects.
Yeah.
Because of the particular nature, particularly of climate issues, and also some of the structural issues in agriculture. For example, one of the structural issue is that pulses and oil seeds.
Yeah.
A big segment. So as the incomes grow, there is a greater protein consumption needed. And protein largely come for vegetarians.
Yeah.
It will come from pulses and milk and other things. And these are the kind of products where if your supplies do not increase, we will have spikes. And then we will have imports. So apart from the import bill, our farmers will also not be benefiting. So that's why we have talking of Atmanirbharta and pulses, a program where we say that if you have a certain contract with agencies, we will be positioned to take up whatever they want to bring in. And as we will be prepared to take it, no matter what, how much they bring.
So another way to boost consumption, one of the income tax cuts, is obviously will be to cut GST rates. Now, that's not in the purview of the budget. The GST Council will take the decision. But could we expect a rationalization of the top GST rates in the coming months or in the next GST meeting?
Well, GST rate rationalization is also an important imperative itself.
Right.
And of course, the GST Council is seized of the matter. They have created a group of ministers. Everything has to be worked with states and the center together. There has to be a large consensus around it. And the work is already on. And it is the details that need to be then thrust upon, how the rationalization will be carried out. Revenue implication of that. If you want to settle something, if you cut down on certain rates, if you want to gravitate towards a rate, there'll be some rates which may have to increase perhaps. So will it be acceptable? There'll be some rates which have to decline. So decline will generally be acceptable. But if the sacrifice of the revenue is too much, and then the people will like to say, because there is also a fiscal management imperative both for the center and the states. Like we will be looking at debt to GDP ratio to be brought to a certain levels over a period of time as a fiscal consolidation path. The Finance Commission itself will propose, even for states, a certain fiscal consolidation path in respect of states' own debts
Fair enough.
left in relation to the percentage of their GSTP.
Okay. Very quickly, Mr. Pandey, I know we are nearing in the end of our interview. For next fiscal, there are a lot of commitments that will come up. You'll have your pay commission payout, you'll have the 63rd Finance Commission, and you will not have the RBI dividend that you've had this year. So what are the levers that, you have probably factored in for keeping your fiscal deficit under check?
Well, if you're talking of 26, 27,
Yes.
certainly the pay commission payout will come in.
Yeah.
And we will have to then look at it, those extra things at that time. Yes.
Yeah. So any levers that you have that you're hoping to pull out around that time? Because RBI dividend will be missing, pay commission payout
Why
will
are
come
you
in.
presuming it?
Well, RBI dividend probably won't be as...
But
I mean,
why?
it was 2.46 lakh crore in the
Yeah, but
25
how are you presuming it?
it seems like that, as in...
I don't think that, you can really say 1 year going forward, you will not have the,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Okay. Now, just a couple of questions on the, you assumed a nominal growth of 10.1% for 25-26. So, you're assuming a real GDP growth of what, 6.1, or is it a higher number? I mean, what is the GDP sort of deflator that one is looking at here?
I think if you really say GDP deflator is sometimes slightly less than, the headline inflation.
That's right. Huh.
So, but be that as it may, we have kept certain range within which, we should work.
Right.
It's quite difficult in these uncertain times to really be very, estimates about growth rate. You will find that at least 4 or 5 times in a year, minimum, the estimates, the forecast changes. So therefore, we are now, when we are preparing for the budget and we are talking of, good 14 months away. This is for next March.
Yeah.
Now we have to keep it certain range and cushions.
Right.
Like many commentators were saying that it should be 10.4 in nominal terms, or it should be 10.5. And, we have assumed 10.1. This assumes a certain amount of risk which might come in as well.
Right.
I mean, we assume a risk more from the angle of what is going to happen in a certain part of our own GDP.
Right.
As I said, there is an import and export part of the GDP which is quite vulnerable to, sort of what's happening around the world. And it may have some transmission impact onto the other domestic sectors.
Okay.
So taking into broadly view, we have assumed 10.1.
I was going to actually partly answer my last question was actually going to be, what is your biggest worry?
Yeah.
To ask, it's very cliche, but what keeps you awake at night?
Well, I think again, just to worry on one, I would say that our macroeconomic fundamentals are strong. We are not as vulnerable as we were earlier.
Right.
In terms of, our financial institutions are strong. They are well capitalized. They are profitable. Because a lot of vulnerability comes from the financial side, financial sector side.
So you're not worried about anything?
So I would say that there are certain risks, something which we need to address and manage. There are certain challenges which will come that we will need to address and manage. But overly sort of, I can't really put a finger one ear or the other. Here.
So do you think in this budget you've created, an environment for the private sector to come forward and invest?
Certainly. I think what we are really saying that the private sector also step in. And today, I had a meeting in CII and I also had a meeting in FICCI. In CII particularly, I said, I told that, why did Adam Smith say animal spirits and did not say human spirit? He wanted to energize animal spirits and not human spirit.
Right.
I think perhaps because the humans, they sometimes think so much that they, in worry for future, they forget the present. And the animals, they remain in the present in a much more concrete form. And that is why, if you are keep on thinking, and you will not be able to take risks and also put your money into capex, always thinking of calculating what might happen and so on. So therefore I said, that's why he said animal spirit. So I said, let's for a change become an animal and think like animals.
So you think the private sector
Put the money back in.
So you think private sector is overthinking? They're overthinking right now, and that's why they're being paralyzed into
In
inaction.
fact, to ask the same thing, why is the private sector not investing? I mean, some of it is, but some of them are. But why is the private sector in general not investing?
No, I think the private sector was initially worried about their own thing. We had a certain laws which were brought into motion. We have a twin balance sheet problem. And there was necessarily a worry. And then we have an IBC. If you take too much of a debt, you might even lose your companies. I think those things have now stabilized. People have brought down their leverage. They are well capitalized. They are trying to do that. They can take some debt also. The banks are in a position to give debt as well. But you should only take as much debt, and you should also bring your own equity and bring that thing. So I would say that, a new kind of entrepreneurship is also needed. The new younger leadership in that, because there is also a thing, a generational change happens, the new generation comes in, some of the people, the startups, they think sometimes quite differently.
Yes.
And we need to have a supporting environment for that startups.
Right.
Because, they will bring new risk taking and, new thing. So everyone can't, if everyone remains conservative and wait and watch approach, then everyone will keep on waiting and watching.
So you think a company like Swiggy and Zomato, which took this risk in bringing in 10-minute commerce, something.
But what we are saying is, even this, the money which we have really put in the hands of taxpayer is also to say that yes, this is the money, extra money, let us leave it there. Wisdom of the taxpayers. They will either save, spend or consume. Either situation we are happy. The decision making goes back to you. In either way, you save, banks are happy. You consume, a lot of industries are happy. You invest, certain other industries are happy.
Right. All right. Thank you so much for your time, and we wish you the very best. Thank you.
Thank you so much.